Hey guys, Dustin Prevo here, and I'm standing in front of my venison vault, my walk-in deer cooler, and it's running because I have two deer in here, both does that I shot last night, late muzzleloader season here in Maryland. And you know, one of the things that I really enjoy doing as far as property management goes is aging deer by the jawbone. Now, if you are, you know, some kind of manager, or if you just really like to gather data and details and information of your deer herd on your property, this is a vital tool that you can use, you know, depicting in determining what type of management actions you need to take for the next year and the next year and so on and so forth. Today I'm going to show you a trick that involves removing the jawbone from a deer that you do not want to mount. And I say that because a lot of times if I kill a buck that I want to mount, we have a jawbone extractor. Today I'm just going to show you a simple in the field trick that you can use to get the jawbone out that will tell you if it's a fawn, a yearling, which is 1.5 years old, or a 2.5 or older. I won't go into exact details on how to tell if it's a 3.5, 4.5, or 5.5. But simplicity will be able to tell you basically if it's a fawn, yearling, or 2.5 or older. This is what I would do if I wanted to get the jawbone out for the deer that I shot that I'm not mounting. So let's take a look. So here's a doe that I shot last night, and now the jawbone that we're going to try to remove runs up through here. One of the things that you got to realize is that you're actually trying to get up here to cut. If you cut down here, you risk loosening or breaking the teeth, and we need these to age the deer. So our goal is to try to cut it from the front and then cut it in the back. So the first thing I like to do is just take this and slice it all the way back so I can get a good look at that jawbone. And then what I like to do is basically clear all the meat off of the jawbone, get it cleared all the way back so I can see exactly what I'm looking at and expose that jawbone. Then when I get to, the point where I can see exactly where I want to cut, the flip and zip from Outdoor Edge works really well for this, but you can use a pair of shears. You can actually twist and break it, but for the most part, this works really well. The flip and zip works really, really well for this. Once I make a clear cut through that, I go back through, double check, make sure everything's cut, the tongue's cut from the inside of the jawbone, and then it's as simple as just grabbing it, pulling it, and twisting it off. All right, so now that I got the jawbone out, what I always like to do first is go ahead and clean this, and then I'm going to number this deer. And the deer number comes based off of our log. With our log, we keep information like the deer's weight, whether or not the deer was lactating, whether or not the deer had fetus present, because shooting deer late season, we're able to get the fetus, measure the fetus, and then basically tell or determine when that was conceived, which gives us a peak breeding data and information. There's a lot to it, but looking at this deer's jawbone, I can tell you already this is going to be an extremely old doe, which probably is one of my oldest does I think I've ever killed. But again, all I'm going to go through right now with you is whether or not this deer is over 2.5 or 2.5 and older. All right, so these two are the same age. These are going to be our fawns, our half-year-olds. These are going to be our yearlings, our 1.5-year-olds. And these two are going to be over 2.5. Now, one is 2.5, and this one I'm not sure exactly what it is. I'm sure it's well over 5.5, 6.5, 7.5-year-old deer. But we're going to start with how to tell the difference in whether or not it's a yearling or a fawn. And that starts with however many teeth we have, okay? So the first thing is basically when you look, if there's only 3 or 4 erupted teeth on one side of the jawbone, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's only 4 teeth here. If there's anything less than 6 teeth, you're looking at a fawn or a deer within between 0 and 1 years old. All right, so now we're gonna be looking at our 1.5 years old, okay? The first thing you're gonna notice, this is 1, okay? This is 2, and this is 3, okay? And you can look, if you're unsure, look down this way. You can see it divides here, so that's 1, divides here is 2, divides here is 3, and then so on and so forth. As we go to the back, these are called premolars, okay? So P1, P2, P3. As we go to the back, these are called your molars, okay? So your first molar is M1, M2, and M3. Okay, now because there's 6 teeth, this deer is a minimum age of a 1.5 year old deer. Okay, we look back at this, has 4 teeth, right? So 4 teeth tells me that this is a fawn. Now we have 6 teeth, right? So from here on out, most deer are gonna have 6 teeth. So how do we tell if this is a 1.5 year old or a 2.5 year old? Well, if you look at P3, and the P3 is called a temporary milk tooth on a 1.5 year old, and then a permanent molar, which is still a premolar, but a permanent tooth in the 2.5 and older. And here's how you tell the difference. As you look here in this P3, this temporary tooth, you've got a 1, 2, 3 crests, all right? These are like mountain crests. So your first teeth look like this, second tooth, and then this one looks like this, right? This here is your P1, P2, P3, M1, M2, M3, okay? So this P3 has 3 crests, right? See it here? 1, 2, 3. And if you're lost and can't figure it out, flip it over, take a look here. 1, 2, 3. That right there, because it has 6 teeth and the P3 has 3 crests, that is an easy way to automatically tell that this is no older than a 1.5 year old. Okay, so this deer is a 1.5 year old. If we look here, same thing, right? 1, it's hard to tell sometimes. Look here, okay, here's 2, and here's 3. Okay, so this is the 3. There's a crest there, there's a crest there, there's a crest there. So that automatically tells me that this right here is a 1.5 year old. Here's another little secret. Let's take our knife, right? Stab in here. So now see this? See that tooth right here? This tooth will replace this tooth. See the 3 crests? This tooth will soon come in and replace this one. Now the difference is there's 3 crests here and 2 crests there, right? So 2 crests automatically tells me that this deer is at least 2.5 years old, okay? So let's do this again. Tooth 1, number 2, number 3. M1, M2, M3, okay? Premolars, molars, right? So P1, P2, P3. Now, I look here, 1, 1, right? It's 2 crests, right? So what does that tell me? That tells me that this is at least 2.5 years old. As we look at the jawbone, the P3 has 2 crests. It's at least 2.5 years old. Now, next video I'll show you, we'll get into wear on the tooth like this, and the interesting thing of determining whether or not it is just a 2.5 year old, or if it's a 3.5 year old, or a 4.5 year old, or a 5.5 year old, or even greater. All right, guys, that does it for your tip from the field today, or from my man cave, my office here in Pennsylvania. I love aging deer by the jawbones. It's something that's fairly new to me. I've only been doing it for 2-3 years. Part of the QDMA Deer Steward programs that I love learning. The more and more that I can do, the more and more I get involved, the more I learn, the better I become as a land steward, as a deer steward, and as just a hunter and a conservationist. And I think aging deer is very unique. It can give you a lot of information once you start weighing your deer and gathering information and data like we do at the Mid-Atlantic Whitetail Solutions. It's very cool making your management plans and just growing all together, and I absolutely love learning the more and more as it goes. So I hope this tool helps you. I hope, if you're in the field and you want to quickly remove the jawbone just to get an idea, is this a fawn? Is it only a 1.5 year old, or is it at least 2.5 years old? And I hope this helps you quickly identify your needs and your wants. Maybe sitting around with your buddies, you can take a guess real quick. I think that's a 2.5 or older, so on and so forth. No, it's only a 1.5 year old. get down and show them how it's done. So come back, we're going to do another video, and we'll go through basically how to tell if it's a 2.5 or 3.5, 3.5, 4.5, 4.5, 5.5, and that's based off tooth wear and a little bit more. So come back and we'll go over that here in the near future on DeerCast.